Good evening, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here for your weekly list of black gold for your delight and delectation. This is the genre list, which means it is funk, jazz, blues, soul, and reggae, some roots reggae, in fact, and some rarities as well. The price list will be published as always, 9 p.m. Sydney time, Australia. If you would like to be on Wednesday, that is Wednesday the 15th, if you would like to be on the mailing list for the price list, where you can, on a first come, first serve basis, buy these records, drop me an email at shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. So the instructions are simple. All right. Now, Nina Simone continues to be a Shortcuts royalty figure. I think probably, if not the most in terms of volume, certainly the most in terms of range of different types of records that she has. And in fact, she appears on both lists today, because the next list I've got to do has got some Vinyl Me Please exclusives, and she appears on that list as well. But this is very rare indeed. This is the Japanese version on the, let me just grab this to show you, the original blue Philips label of her classic 1964 record In Concert. Now, most of you will probably know the sleeve. It's kind of green border with a full-length picture of Nina, a couple of people around as well. But this is the Japanese version of that sleeve. And there's another picture of her at the piano on the back. The sleeve notes describe the record. This released pretty shortly after her debut, Little Girl Blue, that I had no more than just a few weeks ago. And this actually reworks a track from that album, and I think far surpasses it. And that particular track is my favorite on the album, which is track 2, Plain Gold Ring. It features this kind of incessant piano beat that she uses. Sometimes she uses the piano almost as a percussive instrument. She's so skilled at that instrument. And she weaves her way around this melody, describing this plain gold ring and what it means in various contexts. And the other band members slowly but surely enter the mix, very, very subtly. And it's wonderful. It continues a theme that she had at that time of kind of socio-political conscience that she had really for her entire career. But the most blatant examination of that, as Bowie comes over for a cuddle, is the final track, Mississippi Goddamn, which is as angry as its title. It's a very upbeat kind of thing. The sort of thing that she did later on some killer tracks on Pastel Blues, for example. But it's brilliant. Plain Gold Ring has a wailing introduction that almost takes one back to African tribal ritual. The song has a strong Afro-spiritual feeling, heightened all the more by the pounding Congo drum background, and that's what comes in as the band enters the fray. As Nina says, this is describing Mississippi Goddamn, as the sleeve notes in the back. She means every damn word. It starts, Alabama's got me upset. Tennessee made me lose my rest, and everybody knows about Mississippi Goddamn. At one point, actually, she almost breaks character, and it's almost like breaks the third wall, and she turns to the audience and she says, this is a show tune for a show that hasn't been written yet. The sarcasm literally dripping off the stage. It's fantastic. Nina Simone In Concert. All right, What a kickoff record that is. Just awesome. All right, I got some crackers to come. This next one, by the way, is probably my favorite record in tonight's list. And it is this. It is the album Bittersweet by the chairman of the board. Look at them on the back. General Johnson, the incredible lead singer of chairman of the board, although they all contribute to the vocals. What an unbelievable band. Just amazing. I mean, I think that who were the songwriting crew on this? Oh my God. Yeah, Dozier Holland, who had left Motown at this point and formed this legendary label, Invictus. Every Chairman of the Board album is great. And part of the reason it's so great is because they really lean into a kind of a Northern soul ethos. And they're so incredibly funky. You know, one of the differences between a band like Chairman of the Board and, you know, some of the bands that come out of Philly, like the O'Jays, etc., is there's a certain kind of oily, gelatinous nature that comes in the string arrangements and the harmonies, and it kind of feels almost a bit icky. Chairman of the Board are nothing like that. They are just pounding funk. I love them to bits. If you don't know this album, it is a perfect example of that Dozier Holland production. Harder edge, incredible drumming. Yeah, I love this album. It's actually in Japanese pressing, pretty hard to find. I don't think I've ever had it before, maybe once. So it doesn't come up very often. This one comes up a little bit more often, and this album is a bit more common and has a bigger legacy in some ways. And I like it very much. It is The World is a Ghetto by War, a great mix, racial mix band. 7 or 8 members. All compositions written by War, including, of course, the really cracker tune, The Cisco Kid. What a tune that is. You can't go wrong with this album. Anyway, one of the biggest selling funk albums of all time. I think the year it came out, which I think is 1972. It may well have been the biggest selling record of 1972. The other thing that I like about this album is that there are these instrumental sections where the band just really get to explore and play. And City Country City, I think, is probably the best example on the original Liberty label. War, brilliant band. Love that record. Now, the next one is a little bit different. I think this might be the first time I've ever had this album. Now, I know there are plenty of you out there who collect the Master Sound series, the Japanese Master Sound series, which was kind of a 70s and 80s series where the records were pressed on really incredible quality vinyl. There's the inner sleeve, Master Sound. So there's some great Michael Jackson records. There's a Cyndi Lauper Master Sound I've been chasing for donkeys. I've never been able to secure it or find a copy that would work for the club that isn't stupidly expensive. So this is Mr. Gone by Weather Report. Complete Master Sound. I cannot see any evidence whatsoever that this album has ever been played. The inner is perfect. It's almost like I'm opening it for the first time. So I'm going to leave it for whoever grabs this. Weather Report. You've got Wayne Shorter, who passed away recently. You know, probably one of the leading jazz fusion bands that there really probably ever was. Certainly one of the longest running and probably the biggest career. The dynamics on this record are off the charts. I mean, the recording itself is incredible. I have read about people who use Mr. Gone as their kind of default for testing their system. The cover, who's by Lou Beach, is really kind of eerie and kind of psychedelic. I don't know. It's a really interesting record. I mean, it's certainly quite experimental in places. But, you know, if you love Wayne Shorter and all those types of, all the folks, I think it was Jaco Pastorius on bass as well. It's a muso's dream, and I understand this pressing is pretty special. So there you go. All right, that's the kind of funk section dealt with. Now we have some roots reggae, starting with a record that was new to me and maybe new to some of you as well. It is called Jamaican Storm by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Now, the liner notes, the sleeve notes on the back, describe how Marley, this must have been a posthumous release, how many, classic Marley songs were then covered by rock musicians, the ubiquitous I Shot Sheriff and others. But that the early sounds that he made with Pete Tosh and Johnny Nash and those guys were really what led to the Marley phenomenon. And so this album is a collection of tracks made prior to the island years. And so they're much more earthy and rootsy. You can very clearly hear the influence of Lee Perry and Pete Tosh and all those folks. Really cool record. And I know there are some of you out there who are bigger Marley fans than me who will, I think, really love that record. I now have two roots reggae records that I really enjoy. I've been looking, I always grab other copies of these when I find them. Gumbolo by Culture. Look, I mean, if you like your reggae with a little bit of earthiness and a bit of a dub undercurrent, then these two records are for you. I'm just going to show you the second one here. Now, this one is a little bit special. I'll show you why in a second. This is 10 Years After by the Royals. Now, the Royals are more of a vocal harmony. You really do get a sense of that rootsiness through the harmonies. But every so often they will break off and really kind of highlight their Lee Scratch Perry pedigree as well. Now, this is an unplayed white label promo. So the Royals 10 Years After is, as I mentioned, pretty special. Both records are really, really enjoyable, though. The Culture record, I think the Culture Gumbolo record is a little bit more kudos in that kind of Jamaican roots scene. But I enjoy the Royals very much as well. The Culture record is on the Classic Frontline label, a little bit more political, but it's still a real hallmark. And what I really like with the sleeve, you won't be able to tell this, but it's got this kind of matte groove finish. It feels absolutely beautiful. My favorite tracks on this record are two on side two. The opening of side two, Natty Dread, Raw Run, and then the third track of side two, which is called This Train. They would make their way onto my roots reggae playlists and have done in the past. I find them a really cool listen. And the good thing about how the Japanese engineered and pressed their reggae records is that they didn't do it cheaply. They really lent in. So that's why Japanese Bob Marley, Japanese roots reggae is so desirable. The sound quality is exemplary. They sound superb, really warm, and fun to listen to. Zero harshness, and those deep dub beats they just work. There you have Gumbolo and the Royals. Love them very much. And there finishes the Roots Reggae section. Now I've got a couple of blues records. One that you will have seen before, but one that I wanted to get an extra copy of because those who grabbed it have raved about it. And another white label promo that I think is very interesting indeed. Now, the one that you will all know is Stevie Ray Vaughan's Couldn't Stand the Weather. This is the Japanese first press. This is certainly veers more into blues rock than Texas Flood, and you gotta accept that if you're gonna cover Voodoo Child's Slight Return in the way that he does, then the rest of the music kind of has to fit to that, or it kind of stands or kind of clunks. But Voodoo Child works within the context of this record because it has a more rock edge. And that doesn't mean that it isn't virtuosic and emotional, because I still stand by my assertion that this is his best album. I know there are those who say it's Texas Flood, but I don't know. I think I like this one better. And this Japanese press is great. I know there's some of you out there who've got Japanese press and sent me rave reviews. So there's that. And then the other is a white label promo. I'm just going to show you the white label first before I show you the record, because this might be new to some of you. So this is what the white label promo looks like. I do love these Japanese white label promos. For those of you who aren't aware of what these typically are, typically they were sent to record companies or to magazines or luminaries before records of renown were released, and often they were stored and then picked up in the warehouse system that they have in Japan, and then a few of them make their way to me. This is Evolution by the mighty Taj Mahal, complete with Obi, and you can see sample the white label promo. Now, what's notable about this record and kind of makes it stand out a little bit from Taj Mahal's earlier work, which clearly often acoustic blues, but even in those earlier records, the melodicism and the choral work and just the way that he lent into the blues always had a little foot in world music. And so in this record, it's like you hear it a little bit more. You get a kind of almost a couple of tunes that kind of move more towards Santana, kind of salsa blues. But the vocals are always upbeat and ebullient. Exceptional sound quality. These slightly later Taj Mahal records were recorded really, really, really well. And I like every so often a kind of the fun. They're very playful, and so a little bit a different blues sound, but a completely beautiful thing. And I don't think there's much evidence that this record has been played before. To give you an idea of a little bit of the fun side of this, there's a track called The Most Recent Evolution of Mother Fusticus Modernisticus. But there's also the big blues and Throw the Hammer Down and others, which kind of classic Taj Mahal fare. Okay, before I finish off with a true Shortcuts royalty classic, I've got 3 jazz records that are all really interesting in their own ways. Now, it is not typical for an artist to not appear on this sleeve. I'm just going to hold that there and challenge you if you have any clue who the artist is. You can see here the album is called Outward Bound. It is actually by the Eric Dolphy Quintet featuring Freddie Hubbard. So you got Freddie Hubbard, Jackie Byard, George Tucker, and Roy Haynes. Very early Roy Hubbard appearance. I was trying to find out if this was his debut. I don't think it was, but it's pretty, it's got to be pretty close. The back has a really cool bio of Eric Dolphy and his influence on jazz. This is on the Prestige label in fantastic condition. Now, Eric Dolphy is a little bit more avant-garde than kind of maybe my primary taste. The next record I have on the list is something I personally get more out of than Outward Bound. But I have had, read the reviews, and I kind of checked out a couple of the tracks, and I do like them. There's GW 245, very dynamic, very rambunctious sound. If you really kind of embrace where bop started to really evolve and jazz started to go into lots of wild places, then Eric Dolphy is for you. And I do love this sleeve very much. I think that is fantastic. Really interesting record. Now, this next one is a bit of a find for me. Thankfully, 2 of these came on the box. Otherwise, this would not be on the list. And you know what's fun? About a month, maybe 2 months ago, someone came to my garage and was rifling through and picked out a record by Red Garland. It was a US press, and said, can you play this? Have a little speaker. We can test things if anyone's interested. And the opening track of what he'd pulled out was the opening track of this album. It is Soul Junction by the Red Garland Quintet. And the first track is the title track, which is this really, really beautiful piano, jazz, blues number. And I started to play it, and I was like, I'm really sorry about this, but I'm not going to sell that record. It's too good. But now I've found a couple of Japanese copies. You can see the notes inside. Again, in absolutely pristine condition. There's a little bit of edge wear, tiny little bit of edge wear on the bottom and top sleeves. But other than that, just fantastic stuff. Now, imagine Red Garland, beautiful piano player, only got John Coltrane on tenor sax and Donald Byrd on trumpet. That's all. Arthur Taylor, George Joyner filling out the rhythm section. Mono recording. Just a beautiful record. I listened to this today and immediately put the second one on my shelf and was like, that's going nowhere. And this is the other copy. Highly, highly recommended. Okay, finally, this is a record that I've had a couple of times over the last 68 months, and I've just had great feedback. So I grabbed another copy. It is Songs in a Mellow Mood, early Ella Fitzgerald. You kind of know early Japanese presses because the inner is effectively the back sleeve. It has a lyric sheet. It's in fantastic condition. I think early Ella is best Ella. I think there's no doubt about that. I really like Ellis Larkin's piano playing. I'm a sucker for a good piano player anyway. But it's all about her voice, and it's pretty timeless and really beautiful. So, yeah, highly recommended. And then finally, I have true Shortcuts royalty in the top 5 records ever sold by you all, or ever bought by you all. It is the VIP, I should probably know this off by heart now, 6003 repress of Talking Book by Stevie Wonder. You can't see this, but I can. It is the brown translucent Quiex vinyl. It sounds absolutely stellar. So good. And it's just a brilliant album too. I mean, I know everyone talks about Songs in the Key of Life, but Talking Book is in the mix, surely, for his best. Multi-Grammy winning, has Superstition, amongst others. I love the braille in the sleeve. For those of you who have a copy and who maybe haven't searched out the braille, give it, and there it is. You know, look it up, search out your braille on your sleeve, look at the look at what that means. It's pretty special. Anyway, I love it. Stevie Wonder's talking book. All right, there is our genre list for this week. If you would like to be on the price list, drop me a line, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, if you appreciated this video, drop me a comment. Thank you so much, as always. All right, I better prepare my rock list. Thanks for watching. Bye.